And Town Board, you are live.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the May 4th meeting of the East Hampton Town Board. May the 4th be with you. Carol, would you please read the roll call?
Councilmember Burke Gonzalez. Present. Councilmember Reese.
Present.
Councilmember Overby. Present. Supervisor Van.
Present. Please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Today's meeting will be 3 public hearings. We'll have Roseberry, which is a CPF acquisition, amend the 2023 M&S plan. Sasbox Associates, CPF acquisition, amend the 2023 M&S plan. And we have a continuation of the hearing for amending Chapter 255 regarding affordable accessory apartments. But before we get started, we have our town crier here today.
I'm here, yes.
You?
Okay. Last time you all had an assignment. We can start with Councilwoman Rogers. You had Henry Rowley Bishop, I believe.
Yes. Sir Henry Rowley Bishop was an English composer from the early Romantic era. He was the most respected musician of his generation. Contemporaries called him the English Mozart. Almost single-handed, he kept the tradition of English opera alive. He was the composer or arranger of some 120 dramatic works, including 18 light operas, including 80 operas, light operas, cantatas, and ballets. He became the professor of music successively at at the Universities of Edinburgh and Oxford University, and was knighted in 1842. He wrote 1 opera with sung dialogue, which was Aladdin, as well as oratorios, part songs, and glees. Home Sweet Home and Lo, Hear the Gentle Lark were his most famous songs. And I'm going to stop there because I think we're going down the line with more information.
Yeah, he wrote the music.
The music.
The song, Home Sweet Home. John Howard Payne wrote the words.
Yes.
And now we have, you ready, Councilwoman Overby?
I am ready.
Okay, this of course is also involves a scandal, so that's why you got it.
I don't quite understand that reference, but I'd like to hear more.
Just kidding, go ahead.
So I appreciate this. This was actually anyone out there that's an author of some sort should actually, what I found was 2 scandals, a mystery and a sad ending.
Okay.
So I'm going to start with Anna Bishop Schultz, who was born in 1810 in London. And she was, her father insisted that she go to the Royal Academy of Music in London and was taught by composer Henry Bishop, the most popular English musician of the day. He was 23 years Anna's senior, and he became her husband.
Right.
So that's scandal number 1. So scandal number 2 is, I want to make sure I get these in the right order. I don't want to be gossiping about her.
Well, that's all right. It's a scandal. It's an outrage.
So in 1839, she left her husband to marry and to elope with the harpist, whose last name is Bochsa, who was a Frenchman. And it was a scandal at the time because she also left her 3 children. Mm-hmm. It was in the papers, and she was very well known by that time. So that was really the big scandal. Mm-hmm. And then in 1855, her husband was ill. Her first husband would not give her a divorce. And so he did say that he would give her a legal separation. And so she and her now harpist went around the world doing traveling everywhere. And in this case, then her husband then Boxa got ill. And that's when she met Martin Schultz. And Martin Schultz befriended both Anna and her husband and her harpist friend. I don't know. And Boxa ended up dying. He died within 6 months of Anna's first husband. And so Martin Schultz now, during her period of mourning, supported Anna, and she soon asked him to be her manager. Martin was an American-born gentleman in the hamlet of Rock City in Dutchess County, New York, and Rhinebeck. He was the son of descendants of American ancestry dating back to the 17th century. So the events of 1855 proved life-changing personally and professionally for Martin as he gained an internationally acclaimed celebrity wife and accepted a new career as Anna's business manager. So Martin's travels as a young single man with the perfect apprenticeship to accompany Anna on her concert tours for 5 different continents. They eventually married in London.
It just showed you the difficulty women had years ago, though, if they wanted to change their mind about who they were with. She had no recourse. I mean,
so there were rumors that the reason she left her first husband, Henry Bishop, was because he had treated her unfairly and was abusive. So again, going back to women and seeing how they could, how they had to, go through, particularly professional women. So she ended up going, when she met her this husband, Martin Schultz, they traveled to Denmark, Sweden, Russia, Austria, Germany, and the Tartar Empire of the Middle Ages, where she was said to have performed in the Tartar language. Indeed, at her obituary, they claimed that she spoke 13 languages. In Italy, she became a prima donna assoluta at the San Carlos in Naples, where she was engaged for 27 months, making over 300 appearances in a repertoire of 24 operas, including many Rossini and Donizetti favorites. She also had a taste for adventure like few others, and her career coincided with the time when the opera house invaded the colonial periphery, as one author put it. After Italy, she set off to the Americas, singing in New York and San Francisco during the gold rush in Mexico, Havana, Chile, Argentina, and Brazil, and across Asia in the Philippines, Hong Kong, Singapore, India, Ceylon, New Zealand, and Australia. She toured incessantly and sang on every continent. Her voice heard not only in opera houses and concert halls, but also in makeshift venues around the world. During her extraordinary travels, at a time when passenger ships were in their infancy, she was one of the few survivors of a shipwreck in the middle of the Pacific. She lost all her jewelry, all the music scores and costumes that she was using. She spent 3 weeks surviving on seabirds and fish on a coral atoll until she and her fellow survivors recovered 2 small rowboats from the ship and sailed 1,400 miles towards the Mariana Islands. After enduring another 2 weeks on the open boat, they finally and miraculously reached the tiny island of Guam. Only her boat survived the trip, the other sadly being lost at sea. From there, Anna resumed her tour of Asia, and it was reported in a letter from a Augustine friar on the island, that a boat arrived here the day before yesterday with 22 survivors of a wrecked ship. Among them was the famous Donna Anna Bishop. So an increasingly connected world of the 19th century, the fame of the operatic soprano, Madame Anna Bishop had preceded her, even to the remote island in the Western Pacific. Next, we're going to say that whether performing locally at churches or venues like that of the Rhinebeck Star Institute on the 31st of October in 1862, when visiting Schultz family members and friends, or for international heads of state, Anna provided joy and often sang Home Sweet Home, with lyrics by American John Payne and music by composer Henry Bishop. And she also taught the piano. So Anna Bishop Schultz, whose reputation as a singer extended over the entire civilized and great part of the uncivilized world, and whose travels were more extensive than those of any artist of the age, died at the residence of her husband, Martin Schultz, in 1884. They lived at 1443 Park Avenue, and she died on a Tuesday evening. Now, the mystery was that she was buried in an unmarked grave, and that grave wasn't discovered until several decades ago, when a great grandniece of Martin Schultz made the discovery.
Wow.
Anna's wishes were to be buried next to her son, Augustus, whom, remember, she had abandoned. But that's who she wanted to be buried next to, and they found him as well. And she had been buried next to her son. The tragedy was that Martin Schultz died, and they called him an idle tramp. Schultz was 70 years old and preferred living in squalid lodging houses and on the streets, and making an effort towards respectability. During his earlier life, Schultz was engaged in businesses in this city and went to California during the gold fever of 1849. He made money there and entered the China trade. Bad luck overtook his shipping ventures, and he went to Australia in search of better fortunes. On the ship, he met Anna Bishop, then famous throughout the world as a singer. She was making a professional tour with Robert Nicholas Boscia, a famous harper, with whom Lady Bishop had eloped to escape her husband, Sir Henry Raleigh Bishop, the musician and composer. Their sudden attachment developed. Maybe that's scandal number 3. And they later. So upon the death of the singer,
mine a lot.
Yes.
Let's not harp on it.
Okay.
That was good. That was really good. So like most great artists, she spent her money freely, and her husband assisted her in this diversion. He was nicknamed Baron Schultz and called the Prince of Goodfellows. When Anna died in 1884, the astonishing fact was that to a few, there was scarcely any money left over to even give her a suitable burial. Since that time, Martin Schultz had endeavored to live upon the echoes of his wife's fame. Several years ago, he made an attempt to publish her memoirs, hoping to get enough money out of the book to support him. But this scheme failed. It is said that some of his relatives who lived in and near New York supplied him with money from time to time and tried to persuade him to live with them in respectability. But the Baron preferred his own wretched life in the streets. He was knocked down by a horse last week and taken to a hospital with a broken shoulder. While under treatment, typhus supervened, doubtless contracted in some of the wretched lodging houses which he frequented. It was reported yesterday that nobody had applied for permission to bury the body, and it will be disposed of by the hospital authorities. So that's the sad end.
the reason I asked you to do,
A scandal?
no, Anna Bishop went around the world popularizing, as you said, the song Home Sweet Home. And then in 1873, they put a bust up of John Howard Payne in Prospect Park, Brooklyn, and they had a benefit. And Anna Bishop Schultz came and sang Home Sweet Home for that benefit. And we have a letter in Home Sweet Home's collection attesting to her agreeing to do that. So she was very, very, very important in the song becoming popular. But that is so much more than I ever knew before. So we'll have to make the tour at Home Sweet Home a little longer now. But thank you. That was great.
No, lots of information. As I said, a fascinating character. Somebody should be writing the book.
Okay, we had we had Adelina Patti next. Is that correct?
Yes, Adelina Patti was born February 10th, 1843 in Italy and passed away on September 27th, 1919. She was one of the most highly regarded opera singers of the 19th century. She immigrated to the U.S. At a young age and had her opera debut when she was only 16. And she's also famously known for having sung the song Home Sweet Home for President Abraham Lincoln in the White House in 1862 during the American tour when she was just 19. And I just want to add that Anna Bishop popularized the song so much and so far and so widely that Motley Crue did a song by the name of Home Sweet Home also.
Only you would know that, Mr. Supervisor.
It came across in my research. I thought that's interesting. But the other thing is, the last line of Home Sweet Home is there's no place like home. There's no place like home. And if you say it 3 times and click your heels, you'll end up in Kansas.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that we first tell people when they come to Home Sweet Home. It did not first appear in The Wizard of Oz. That was like 1907, 1908. Payne wrote the song and the words in 1822. Okay, Councilman Leese, you had
Jenny Lind.
the Swedish Nightingale.
Correct. It's always interesting the type of rabbit hole you send me down looking for information here and to see how it comes together and affects East Hampton's history. So I appreciate you sending me on 2 hours of research here for this one, which is great because it took me to actually the University of Rochester's Eastman collection, Eastman School of Art at the University of Rochester, where the Home Sweet Home collection is, where many of these manuscripts are that we've just discussed.
I think the original score is there.
Correct, along with what I believe Council Member Burke-Gonzalez, the Maid of Milan, is also there too.
Mm-hmm.
Going forward, Joanna Maria Jenny Lind was born in October 1820. She passed in 1887. She was a Swedish opera singer, often called the Swedish Nightingale. She was one of the most highly regarded singers in the 19th century. She performed in soprano roles in the Opera of Sweden and across Europe and undertook an extraordinarily popular concert tour in the United States, which began in 1850. She was born in central Stockholm. Lind was lifelong the illegitimate daughter of Johannes Lind, a bookkeeper, and Anne Feldborg, a school teacher. What became very interesting is on this tour of 1850. In 1850, Jenny Lind, who was also the Swedish Nightingale, packed the theater in Richmond, the Marshall Theater. What was very interesting that the highest concert ticket price in 1850 was auctioned at $105, which is approximately $3,000 today. It's like a Taylor Swift concert. Anyway, sorry, inside joke.
You have 4 daughters.
You have 4 daughters?
I got $4. It's a lot of money. It's college tuition. So this is part of a 21-month, 93 performance tour. Now, what happened is that this tour was stoked by frenzy, demonstrated by the marketing power of Lind's manager, who was the greatest showman, Phineas Taylor Barnum and Bailey.
Right.
But on this tour, what happened was that she always sang Home Sweet Home, or a rendition of Home Sweet Home. What I saw on this one time was very interesting is that Mr. Payne was very successful as a playwright, but very unsuccessful managing his money. That's why Home Sweet Home, Henry Bishop was persuaded to compose it. He sold more than 3,000 copies, but Mr. Payne got $250 out of it. In 1832, Mr. Payne was delusionist and penniless, returned to the United States. He never recovered from his final bitter disappointment. But this is what I thought was the best part of this research, and I thank you. Although Mr. Payne appeared publicly, his enthusiasm for life had been sapped. Nevertheless, he remained a celebrity among people in the theater. One night in 1850, Jenny Lind, the Swedish Nightingale, was singing in Washington as part of her American tour. President Millard Fillmore, his family, and cabinet were in the audience. So were Henry Clay, Daniel Webster, and various other dignitaries. Payne was in the audience, as well as Home Sweet Home was one of Lind's favorites. And just before Jenny Lind, started singing, she turned to face Mr. Payne and sang it to him. The usually stoic Webster was moved to tears, as was the whole audience. When the song ended, Webster stood up and bowed to Payne. Others followed, giving him the greatest ovation of Mr. Payne's lifetime, which came at the vocal of Jenny Lind.
That's why I asked you about it. That's exactly right.
I tried my best for you.
Yeah. And now we have the operetta in which Home Sweet Home was sung for the first time. Clary, the Maid of Milan, Councilwoman Gonzalez.
Yes, Clary, the Maid of Milan is a drama in 3 acts by John Howard Payne, and I actually found online, and it was sold for 1 penny.
Penny opera.
And so the story, it's about an unsuspecting country girl attracts the Duke, who installs her in his mansion as his cousin. His intentions, however, appear to be far from marriage. Realizing this, Clary escapes back to her home, where her father berates her for shaming the family. The Duke, however, realizing that he truly loves her, pursues her, and all ends happily. Sounds like a Lifetime movie, right? The storyline was set.
Scandal.
Yeah, the storyline was set as an opera by Henry Bishop and included what came to be a most famous song that we've all talked about, Home Sweet Home. And it was first performed at the Theatre Royal at Covent Garden in May of 1823.
Yeah, everyone thinks that John Howard Payne wrote the song Home Sweet Home about the building, Home Sweet Home. No, he didn't. He wrote it as part of this operetta where the young girl winds up in the palace, and then the Duke says, wait a minute, our stations are too far apart, we can't get married. So she starts singing, "Mid pleasures and palaces that we may roam, be it ever so humble, I never should have left home. There's no place like home." Right? That's the genesis of the song. Well, thank you.
Can I just add one thing? For our history is that the Home Sweet Home became the most popular song here in the United States throughout the American Civil War. It really resonated with the soldiers.
Yeah, and then they had to stop it being played.
Yeah.
After a while. All right, I'm not going to give you an assignment for next time because I think the next meeting will be a couple of days before the June 10th.
No,
Right,
next
so-
meeting is May 18th.
Oh, good.
We're on spring break.
No, here's your next assignment. I'm sorry. Okay. Okay, Councilwoman Rogers, you're going to talk. John Howard Payne's birthday was June 9th. Okay, so before his birthday, we'll all be doing research about John Howard Payne. So you could just summarize in a bit his acting career and why he was so important. And now we have another scandal. Councilwoman Overby, you get to do John Howard Payne and Mary Shelley.
Okay.
Supervisor Van Scoryak, you could do John Howard Payne as a playwright. Talk about his playwriting career. Councilman Lees, Tunisia. What's the connection between John Howard Payne and it was called Tunis then, Tunisia.
That was part of your 2 hours of research.
Yeah, well, good. And then Councilwoman Gonzalez, can you display the connection between John Howard Payne and the Cherokee and Creek Indian nations? You have a part in them. Okay, thank you all for listening. There'll be a test, and you have to pay for parking if you don't pass it. All right. Bye.
Thank you so much, Hugh.
Thank you.
From time to time, we have the honor of recognizing the achievements or contributions of members of our community. So I'd like to take a moment just to do that.
Sit down.
So we're now, let me just grab my glasses. So we're now just past the 3-year anniversary of COVID. And it's really great to be on the other side of the pandemic now, but for several years, it affected everybody's life in a very negative way, and it will obviously have implications from here on forward. The parts of the world will never be the same. But to help get us through that dangerous time, we have a couple of individuals who are in the healthcare profession, and I want to welcome them and ask them to come up as I read this proclamation. Robert Challoner and Robert Ross from Southampton Stony Brook Hospital. Gentlemen, join me. Whereas the town of East Hampton wishes to express the appreciation for those who have continued to show dedication and determination throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, and whereas the town recognizes the unwavering efforts of those who have kept serving the community despite the most difficult of circumstances, and whereas the town of East Hampton is grateful to all those who continue to keep our community's strength and well-being at the foremost priority. Therefore, be it proclaimed, the town of East Hampton hereby recognizes Robert Challoner and Robert Ross, Stony Brook Southampton Hospital. Thanks again. And, I can tell you that these two gentlemen were integral in our effort to help bring vaccine to the local community. The town was able to set up our own clinic, and they did several clinics there. I remember one of the very first, Robert Challoner. We all remember it because vaccine was very hard to come by. And we had gone through the entire list of eligible parties who could accept vaccine. We still had vaccine. So we were literally eating cold pizza and cold calling up to 2 in the morning. I think David Lease was the most successful person of getting people he called to respond, because some of his friends were still up. But again, thank you, gentlemen, both, and thank you for your efforts to bring to East Hampton the long-awaited emergency satellites that are right next year. Part of that, relocating the ball fields, which we have just completed that project. There are a few little odds and ends, scoreboard or whatever. Thank you for your contributions to that as well. And I don't know if you have any update, but I know construction's underway.
Sure.
Construction fence is up, and
Yeah, well, first of all, I just would like to say thank you to you and the town board and all of you to COVID crisis also. It was just a remarkable partnership, and we were thrilled and honored to work with you. And I, as a resident of the Northwest Woods myself, I'm very proud of this town board and all that you do on behalf of all of us. Yeah, the project is going wonderfully. The fences are up. We've started demolition. We've bid out, I think, about 90% of the work at this point. Excavation will start shortly, and we're moving on track to get this thing open. So we hope by August or so of next year. We'll see how that goes. I'm not quite promising that date, but it'll open in 2024. So we're very excited.
Well, again, thank you so much. We appreciate all you've done for the community. Continue to do.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I know, I do too.
Our pleasure.
I would like to give my own personal thanks to Robert Ross. He was when we did the business committee, he came to every meeting. We had it once a week. Every single meeting, he was there with numbers, helping us try to understand the ups and the downs of this disease, how it was affecting our business community, helping us answer questions from the business community that were directed to Robert and the hospital itself. And he was just such a great representative for the hospital, for Stony Brook, and for Southampton. And I just thank him and anytime I had to send him an email, he answered it right back. He was just really good communicator. And I appreciated that about him as well. And I thank you. And I miss our conversations too. I know that we're not having those meetings regularly anymore, but I do thank you for everything you did to help us get through, to help our businesses survive. Such a big part of having to get through this whole COVID mess as it was. But thank you, and thank you both.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Stay well.
Thank you.
As well. So that brings us up to the public hearings portion of the meeting. Carol, if you'd please read the COVID disclosure and the hearing notice for the first hearing.
The public hearings will be held live and in person by the town board and will be available electronically by video and teleconferencing and will be televised on local TV, Channel 22, and available for live stream on the LTV website. The public shall be permitted to appear in person, but may also provide comments on the matter by calling 351-888-6331. Any person or party wishing to be heard with respect to the foregoing may do so in person or by agent, by attorney, or by teleconference to the live meeting, or by written comment addressed to the East Hampton Town Clerk, 159 Panago Road, East Hampton. Comments may also be submitted to the town clerk by email to cbrennan@ehamptony.gov. All comments must be received by the town clerk by the date and time of the public hearing. Please check the meeting agenda posted on the town's website for any changes and for updated information. Take notice that the town board of the town of East Hampton will hold a public hearing in the town board meeting room, East Hampton Town Hall, 159 Panago Road, East Hampton, pursuant to section 247 of the Gentleman Municipal Law and section 64E8 of the town law of the state of New York on May 4th at 2 p.m. or soon thereafter, as this matter may be heard, to consider the following. Town's acquisition for preservation of open space with community preservation funds of a property located at 12 South Fay Street in Montauk, reputedly owned by Arthur G. Roseberry and consisting of approximately 0.37 acres of vacant land at a cost to the town of East Hampton not to exceed $400,000 plus reasonable survey, title, prorated tax, and recording charges. Said property being described on the Suffolk County tax map as 328-5-23.2, an amendment to the 2023 CPF Management and Stewardship Plan to include said property.
Thank you, Carol. We have Scott Wilson here from
Sure.
Land Management. Give a brief overview.
So the property we're talking about today, you can see on your screen is outlined in blue. It is just south of Lake Montauk off South Bay Street. As you can see, it is contiguous to significant town preserved open space. The property also contains freshwater wetlands. These wetlands provide numerous environmental benefits that are typical of freshwater wetlands, including the provision of a habitat for valuable wildlife, retention of floodwaters, and the removal of pollutants prior to groundwater recharge. There's actually also a culvert that empties onto this property that likely contributes to the overall character of the wetland. It just makes this parcel's ability to filter pollutants and sediments prior to entering the groundwater table all the more important. This property meets the criteria set forth in Town Law 64E. As such, I would ask the town board to pass a resolution to acquire.
Thank you, Scott. Is there anyone here who wishes to address the board on this matter? Hudson, are there any callers on the line who wish to address the board on this specific public hearing?
No callers on the line.
Motion closed?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, pass and carried. Carol, if you read the next hearing notice, please.
Notice that the town board of the town of East Hampton will hold a public hearing in the town board meeting room, East Hampton Town Hall, 159 Panago Road, East Hampton, New York, pursuant to section 247 of the General Municipal Law and section 64E8 of the town law of the state of New York on May 4th at 2 p.m. or as soon thereafter, as this matter may be heard, to consider the following. The town's acquisition for preservation of open space with community preservation funds of a property located at 42 and 46 LaForest Lane, Amagansett, reputedly owned by Sass Fox Associates LLC and Sass Fox Associates, and consisting of approximately 4.4 acres of vacant land at a cost to the town of East Hampton not to exceed $3,100,000 plus reasonable survey, title, prorated tax, and recording charges, said property being described on the Suffolk County tax map as 300, 126, 1, 14.28, and 14.29, an amendment to the 2023 CPF Management and Stewardship Plan to include said property.
So the property up on your screen is also outlined in blue at the end of the array. The property is primarily made up of a high-quality oak beech forest. The parcel lies over the Stony Hill Aquifer and is in the Water Recharge Overlay District. It is also within South Fork Special Groundwater Protection Area, as well as being in the East Hampton Pine Barrens. The parcel is adjacent to and in proximity of significant woodland blocks of protected lands owned by the town of Peconic Land Trust. Preservation would increase the amount of contiguous forest land, protect groundwater resources, and protect habitat for threatened species of flora and fauna. The parcel meets the criteria set forth in Town Law 64E. I'm going to ask the town board to pass a resolution to acquire, but do you also want some history on this a little bit?
You can give a little bit additional background if you like.
You might remember this speech if you were here in 2014 when we heard this property for public hearing. This is the second time around we've considered these properties for acquisition. That at the time we went into contract to acquire this property, we were not aware that the land had a right of first refusal on it. And in an effort by the seller to ensure that the property was preserved as opposed to built, more than a 6-year lawsuit ensued. About 18 months ago, with no end in sight of that lawsuit, the town reconciled with the seller that they would rescind the contract. Fast forward 18 months and the seller has reapproached the town. The properties were important at that time. They're still important at this time. And so we're going 8.5 years later, going for a second go around to look to acquire these properties. We have additional language in the contract of sale to help better protect the town's position with regard to that right of first refusal. And I believe after speaking to the seller's attorneys, our attorneys and the town board, that we are in a much better position this time around to be able to follow through. So I would ask the board to pass a resolution to acquire.
Thank you, Scott. Is there anyone here who wishes to address the board? Mr. Buda.
Thank you. Thank you, David Buda. I'm glad that Scott added that historical note because it saved me the trouble of referencing. The only problem I have is the litigation is still ongoing, although the plaintiff in that case did default. The court defaulted the plaintiff for failing to appear at a deposition, and a default judgment apparently was entered. But the case is still ongoing. It's still listed as an active matter, and there's still litigation and motion in practice, and who knows whether there'll be an appeal thereafter. So I have to wonder whether or not, and maybe town attorney can comment on it, whether you're buying into a lawsuit unnecessarily. You've waited a long time. It was 2014 that you had engaged, you had agreed and entered into a contract to purchase 3 properties. One of them, in fact, closed. That property was purchased for, the original contract price for the 3 properties was $3.6 million. The one property that did close, that did not have this disputed right of first refusal issue, sold for $1.4 million, which left $2.2 million on the contract. Obviously, we're not now in 2014. Land values have changed. I would have to acknowledge that. They've only gone upward and upward. But the current purchase price, a little more than $1.5 million for each, certainly is full value. This is not a discounted sale. This is not someone who is environmentally minded giving you a tremendous discount on the property and then taking some tax benefit for having sold you a property at a loss or a less than fair value. This is clearly a full value, full market value purchase. So having released the sellers from the contract not that long ago in 2021. We come back now at a much higher price, at a current price, to revive the contract when there's still the remnants or the lingering litigation that fills 7 pages of the docket sheet. So it's quite complicated and it's quite intensely being disputed. So since it's not a concluded matter, and since I suspect that there will still be claims that this contract cannot be consummated at this time, I'm just wondering, John, if you and Scott have looked into exactly how the pending litigation would affect the town's ability to close and obtain good and marketable title to this property at this time. And then let me just make one more general comment. Yes, the town's been in favor of acquiring these 2 lots in the Bell Estate for quite some time. 2014 was the original determination. But it really should be recognized that a large lot, 2.2 acres, has the best protection that the town's zoning laws provide for minimizing development and maximizing clearing. And with our state-of-the-art requirement for state-of-the-art septic systems having been imposed sometime after this original contract, you really have to wonder how much environmental benefit actually acquiring these properties gives to the community. I know it's reputedly it's above the water aquifer, but I don't think that we're ever going to reach the point where the town should acquire each and every vacant property, regardless of where it is in the town. This might be a desirable property, but you're paying full and fair current price for it. So I have only moderate support for the acquisition.
Thank you, David. Anyone else wish to address the board on this topic? Hudson, do we have any callers on the line who wish to address the town board on this public hearing?
No callers on the line.
Motion to close?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, pass carried. So our next hearing is continuation. That is amend chapter 255 regarding affordable housing, affordable accessory apartments. We have Jeremy Samuelson here, our planning director. Give a brief introduction and then go to public comment.
Good afternoon, members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity to come before you again today. As a very brief overview of the conversation to date, as you all know, since the early 1980s, there has been a provision for affordable accessory apartments in the East Hampton Town Code that was most recently updated in 2016 with a version of this program that was described then, and I think fairly so, as a pilot program that allowed up to 100 units. There is somewhere, depending on which record you want to look at, that describes roughly 48 of the possible 100 that have been used since that time, which beg the question, if there is such a need for housing, why has this not been used? As you've heard me describe, we've done extensive research, interviews, surveys, et cetera, that pointed to a series of changes, one of which that we also determined was necessary was to bring more of these units online. So the proposal before you today that you have discussed at several work sessions and is actually open for public hearing now includes a provision to double the number of units possible under this program to a total of 200, including that 48 that I mentioned before. There is, in addition, a series of dimensional adjustments. You know, you've heard me torture this phrase over time of adjusting the dials. We continue to view this as and it gets a smile out of Sylvia.
It's a very analog statement.
Yeah, well, I'm an analog guy. What can I say? So I'm that generation. So the point being that we think there's tremendous good here, but only if it meets people's needs. And there was a need to adjust everything from the dimensional regulations for the size parcel required to the size of the unit that's possible to the number of bedrooms. There's a series of changes here that you have walked yourselves through numerous times. And I think the intent throughout the entirety of this process has been to, not only convince ourselves and each other that this is a project that is needed, but that it is done in a way that upholds our shared responsibility to protect character of neighborhoods, quality of life, and the environmental resources of the town. So in furtherance of that, there is an expanded EAF, environmental assessment form, that has been available to the public now for something like 2 weeks. We have sought and received the comments of the planning board, who had some of the same questions that you all have described over time, and the public has had, by my count, no fewer than 5 opportunities now to share their thinking and their desires for how this program can move forward, but do so, again, in a way that protects all of the things that we also care about at the same time as providing affordable housing. I will pause there and welcome any questions that you have.
Thank you, Jeremy. I think we'd like to hear from the public now. So
Thank you.
if there's anyone in the room who'd like to address the board, David, Buddha.
I hope that the draft short environmental assessment form dated April the 20th is the last and current one, because that's the one that I found on Google. Okay, it is. So, by the way, if there is a proposed resolution on today's agenda to, in fact, make a negative declaration, I didn't see it. Maybe I missed it, or maybe you've done it already, but I didn't see it. But then again, the agendas come out so late, and they're so often filled with numerous things at the last minute, it's hard to keep track. So if there is a resolution, which there should be, if that's your intention, to review this proposed EAS and short environmental assessment form and make a conclusion as to whether or not there's no adverse environmental impact likely, then you should, of course, prepare a resolution. Now, I shouldn't have to remind you that the 3 most important things, the first 3 items listed on the short environmental assessment form, part 2, is whether or not the proposed action will create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulations. Number 2, will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of use of land? Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community? All 3 of those, the drafter of the proposed document says no or small impact may occur. My focus is on one particular aspect of this whole regulational scheme. And particularly bear in mind, since it's been acknowledged that really this is the nose of the camel sticking itself underneath the tent, and whether or not it will continue to increase in numbers. This is just really segmentation. We're not talking about this is the end of the proposal. This is, if this works, we'll add more again. That's how we got here. We had 100, now we're making it 200. 20 in each school district, we're making it 40. We had a limitation on size of lot that could participate in detached and attached affordable accessory apartments. It was 30,000, now we're going down to 20. What this environmental impact study does not do, it's really nothing more really than a recitation of the legislative scheme and explaining what is being proposed. There is no analysis whatsoever of how many 20,000 square foot lots you would be adding to the ability to add a detached affordable accessory apartment. There are no numbers, but I think you clearly recognize that the 20,000 square foot lot is probably the most prevalent in the community. It's the current minimum size for a residential lot. And I am concerned about encouraging, with no end in sight, detached affordable accessory apartments, particularly because most homes in a 20,000 square foot property have a septic system that's designed for no more than 4 bedrooms. And it's already at capacity. So you really can't put people, 2 bedrooms, up to 900 square feet in an attached accessory apartment in a 20,000 square foot property without, in my opinion, causing detrimental impact to the neighborhood, the character of the community, the environment of the community. And we should have held the line where you were at 30,000. There should be a more stringent requirement for an affordable accessory apartment that's in a detached structure than there is for a attached structure. The current attached structure requirement for AAA is 20,000. Fine. What does this environmental assessment form say is the reason why you're going from 30 to 20? It gives one reason. This change will simplify this regulation by establishing the same lot area requirements for apartments within residential structures and those in detached accessory structures. Simplification. Why should someone bother to have to look at whether his property is 30,000 or 20,000? Simplification. Well, we could simplify the zoning code by giving every property of all sizes the same requirements and the same use, the same setback requirements. We don't do that. We adjust the uses allowed, the clearances, the setbacks to the size of the property. So in the aim for the sole justification of simplifying the regulations, I'm afraid that you're going to do more harm than good by allowing and encouraging more and more detached accessory structures to have affordable apartments inserted in them. What are those detached structures? Typically a garage, a shed, I don't know, a barn. Those are really not appropriate for living. If they are, it violates the basic fundamental rule of zoning, that there be one dwelling structure per lot. This is essentially destroying, encouraging a diminution of our zoning laws by allowing multiple dwellings on a single lot, encouraging multiple family dwellings in single family residential zones. You really need to look at that. I would ask you to hold the line on that one particular provision of this law. Thank you.
Dave. Is there anyone else? Yes, Jane.
Hi, Jane Mearing, Ocean Lane at McGansett. Good afternoon, Town Board. I spoke last time, and I want to thank you all for keeping this open, and also do want to apologize because I came without the right documents last time, and I don't like doing that. But anyway, so now I think I have everything I need here. I'll just be brief to add on a few things that I didn't talk about last time. So if I may, I just want to start, just go through a few of these things. This could be on the page 5, apartments with commercial structures, point 1. And I'm still struggling, I think that's not a great word, but struggling with this issue around commercial. So I just want to dive into it. So the first thing that says, all dwelling units created shall be for the use of and available to moderate income families, which I think is great. I guess my concern is how will the families to go into these units in commercial be selected? And I guess, my issue is we have people who might be on waiting lists for other type of housing. And my concern is that we have a lot of new commercial that's already coming into town. It's getting a lot bigger. We may believe that trend is going to continue. And so it would seem that somehow it would be very important to try and prioritize people who have been waiting for affordable housing, instead of let's say a large commercial development comes in, it's going to create a need for 60, 70 new employees. So it adds to the deficit potentially. And then somehow, maybe they're qualified. So I just wanted to kind of come back and talk about how they'll be selected and make some sort of question. People who have been waiting for a while be prioritized if that's possible. And then secondly, with regard to commercial, this is on page 6, number 3. This will be a little later as well. I'm still a little stuck on this 1,200 square feet because they're still limited to 2 bedrooms. And so I'm not really understanding why 1,200 square feet would be appropriate for an affordable apartment if it's only 2 bedrooms. I could understand maybe if you wanted to do 3 or something like that. So it just seems very large, especially if you've got 4 of them in a commercial structure. On page 8 was the same thing, it's just in the LBOs. didn't know if this is page 9, number 3, it says a detached affordable accessory apartment not permitted in a lot where there exists blah, 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 and pre-existing accessory apartment. I'm assuming implied in that is either a detached or within a structure, but I didn't know if that needed some clarity. And page 17. Okay, this is page 17, this is H, design requirements, point 1. You did talk about this in one of the work sessions, but I don't think it was ever resolved. If there's gross floor area in a attached unit that is below grade, it's still not clear if that would count as GFA when we don't currently count below grade space as GFA, and I think at some point there could wind up being a conflict that I don't recall you all resolving. So just didn't know if that should be resolved at this point. I didn't see why you would want to exclude it from GFA to, encourage. And then lastly, it probably says this somewhere else in the document, but in this last section about design requirements, you do say the last point is that setbacks, shall meet proper setbacks. But in this section, it does seem somewhere it should also say that, the addition of whatever structures are created should still comport with coverages, all the other dimensional and required area parts of the code. I'm not saying someone couldn't go for a variance, but I still feel it needs to be clarified that sort of all the regular dimensions, coverage, GFA, those types of things should be required to be adhered to, even with the addition. So that's what I had for now. Thank you.
Hudson, do we have any callers on the line? Or is there anyone else in the room who would like to word?
We do have a caller on the line. Caller 8827, you are live.
Yes, hi, I'm just waiting for public portion. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, with no other further public comment, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. That brings us up to public comment. I believe we have a caller on the line. Let's go to the caller.
All right, caller 8827, you are live.
Yes, good afternoon, Town Board. This is Joe Karpinski. Course number 1, my road is still blocked and nobody can access the beach. Number 2, I see on today's agenda we have 70 Bayview Avenue. This is another parcel on the road that has going to give you a road widening easement, and this is after the fact of they have a home. They've already had multiple meetings for a pool. They have had constant construction for the last several years. So this is the continued, in my opinion, gross malfeasance and bastardization of urban renewal law. And I will reiterate that urban renewal law and adopted under town code is all these homes that are under construction need to have done this before they ever were issued a building permit. I can tell you at the same time, during the last several years, as I've contacted the building department and the code enforcement, or ordinance enforcement as they're known as today, and I keep getting told that people have valid permits. This would be an invalid permit. It was not obtained correctly. And this coincides with each and every one of these parcels that are being constructed on, that they also need to do their required road assignment for the town of East Hampton. That being said, I'd also like to bring up the fact that continuously at the meetings, and certainly in their right, Nicholas Greco keeps calling up the town board to ask you guys about the legislation, even saying how he's corresponding with you over the last month with the geotextile legislation. I will remind everyone that Mr. Greco is one of the homeowners who was given letters from the town of East Hampton over 4 years ago to open up our road immediately, and the road is still blocked today. I'd also like to correct the fact that I believe I said 69 days from that permit running out. It was actually 68. So today would be 66 days from that alleged valid DEC permit, which is certainly invalidated for multiple reasons. And under the hazards in the emergency activities plan under letter D, number 2, which certainly we have our road in the middle, those cubes falling apart. I'd also like to bring to the attention the two pictures, or two of the three pictures that you guys had when Mr. Frank gave you guys the presentation. One was our road physically being blocked. Another one was later on to show you the scouring and what happens over the years. You'll notice in those pictures, just to point out to you, like we did to the Zoning Board of Appeals multiple times, Mr. Greco actually built a fence on top. That fence that he built on top would be an addition. No building permit permitted him to do so, and neither did the DEC permit. So that's another violation to this whole structure, just to point that out to you. Thank you for your continued effort. So I think more can be done, and have a great day.
Thank you for calling, Joe. Anyone in the room wish to, do we have any other callers on the line before we go back to the room?
No other callers on the line at this time.
Yes, sir, you'd like to address the board?
Good afternoon. I'm Victor Gelb. I'm co-president of the Amagansett Village Improvement Society, and I'm here to strongly recommend to the town board that you adopt the modifications to the draft plan for the Amagansett Plains, also known as the 555 property, that were presented by the Amagansett Citizens Advisory Committee. In a unanimous vote, the board of the AVIS agreed that these points should be incorporated into the plan. It should be preserved as farmland. It needs to be maintained as a fallow field in meadow form. It is for passive recreation only. No structures should be erected. No events, especially large events, should be held. Any improvements or fixtures would need to be installed around the perimeter, leaving the center of the meadow open. We'd like to abandon or remove the current gravel road. We expect no more than 12 parking spaces and definitely no impermeable paving. We believe the issue that we're facing is that we're reacting to a draft plan rather than an actual plan. We urge the board to publicly make available a final plan for the property incorporating these points. This should happen prior to any vote being taken. This will give our residents of Amagansett and the town the information that they need to make an informed decision as to whether or not the plan is warranted. I feel I need to add that AVIS traditionally is an apolitical organization. I'm not sure if any of my predecessors has ever addressed the town board as a representative of AVIS. When we started to discuss this at our meetings, that topic did come up. Does this fall under our mission, which is to keep the beauty and the character of our hamlet as it is now? And it was unanimously agreed that this plan, as it stands now, would dramatically affect that mission. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Victor. Appreciate your
Mr.
comment.
Gelb, could I ask you a question, please?
Of course.
So we've been having the Wounded Warrior project there
Yes.
over the past, I don't know, many years. And are you saying you are against hosting the Wounded Warrior project?
My understanding is Wounded Warrior Project has not used the property in several years, that the attendance has been reduced, but no, I will never come out and say we cannot support our veterans.
But that's what you're saying.
There have been other events that have used that property, and I'll give the example of the East Hampton Library Authors Night.
Yep.
That was, in our opinion, a disaster. The tents were set up in the center of the meadow. There were automobiles allowed to be driven all over the property. That is not what we would like to see.
So the other question I have is about the trees. So a limited number of trees. Is there some reason there is a war on trees?
No, absolutely not. But we are very concerned that this is really the last publicly owned open piece of property in Amagansett. It has, as is pointed out in the current draft plan, beautiful views of various aspects of Amagansett, and we would like to keep it that way.
So for years, when I first came here in the early 80s, it was covered with cedar trees, completely covered. I don't think you could see through it. The deer hadn't arrived yet. So, so that is something that you still just don't want to see.
We would prefer to keep it open property. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Gunn.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, Jane?
I would like to follow up just on your questions, and thank you for speaking. So I've written my own letter to the board about this topic. And also I'm on the Amagansett Citizens Advisory Committee, and I support what was written as well. So I think that the issue on the trees, and I hope I'm not an enemy of trees, I think because it was purchased for both agricultural and open space as well as recreational needs, that it, you know, the idea that it is a fallow field and meadow form potentially to maybe be regenerated into better ag soils, the idea of trees is counter to, I think it's counter to that that purpose. That's number one. And then number two, I just want to reiterate, this is in my letter as well, there is something incredibly special and unique about the view shed or the vista, right? You stand and you look up and it swoops up over the railroad tracks, and that open space vista has a very powerful, to me, but very gentle and pastoral view. And I'm on the property a lot. And when you're at the back of the property and you're looking towards 27, there's something kind of magical about having just that beautiful, peaceful open space. So, I mean, the trees on the side are productive. I mean, ospreys come and help with their young, and they're practicing, not so much fledging, I can't remember what it's called. They literally practice going on and off of trees. So I don't think anyone's saying there can't be more, but keeping it open. I think those cedars had arrived because nothing, you know, I not that they're invasive, but I think it was, you know, the property wasn't being kept. So I think that's sort of part of, if I may.
You're accurate. It had been farmed for years and then laid fallow, and all the trees just seemed to pop up.
Right. And there is something very characterful. And, you know, I think I put this in my letter, 14,000 people supposedly a day drive by. And it is sort of a very special view that catches your eye. That number probably doubles or triples, you know, in the summer. Everyone, and it's not just Amagansett people. And if I may, one more on the Wounded Warrior, I am also in the no events camp, but if I remember it says, I think in the draft management plan, that the Wounded Warrior would be sort of grandfathered onto the property. And, you know, to me, like, that's not a big tented event. There's not a lot of music. Basically, it's like a staging area. So, I mean, I personally would not say, all right, forget them, you know, or something like that. So I think that could be grandfathered perhaps and still have no other events. So just wanted to add that on.
No other community related events for unforeseen reasons that, you know, that we don't have right now.
I mean, if you were to really, so I know other people feel strongly on the no. I think my original issue, the first time I spoke on the management plan a couple years ago, and then again, is it leaves it a little open-ended. It says, you know, not many, and then it's parentheses, maybe 3 to 5. And you know, there is a worry over time with other boards and other changes that can creep, right? So maybe if it was, you know, no more than X a year, you know, this is an issue. So again, we've discussed, and I agree, this is not for Amagansett sole benefit, but events, you know, when they get large, do really impact. You have, you know, 1, 2, 3. I mean, you have 3, 4 surrounding residential areas, and it, you know, can become hairy. So if it were to say no more than 2 a year and no bigger than X and no tents and no amplified music. Like if you really wanted to structure it, maybe that should be on the table. I don't want to sound anti-community event, but we know that these things can creep and there's so much pressure on events and special events getting bigger. So
right.
It's just.
Thank you, Jane.
Thank you.
Do we have any callers on the line, Hudson?
No callers on the line.
Okay. Mr. Buda, it looks like you get the last word again today.
Thank you. On Tuesdays at the work session, I called in with a suggestion and no one had an opportunity to respond or comment. So I'm going to just basically throw it out there again. I'd love to hear, you have no obligation to respond, but I'd love to hear anyone who thinks favorably upon the idea of the town encouraging publication and publicity of the enforcement actions that the various town enforcement departments.
I'd love to comment on that, actually.
There you go.
You mentioned District Attorney Ray Tierney's publication. And I don't know if you saw it online, but I received a hand-delivered copy of it in my office. I think actually while we were having the meeting, the gentleman brought it in. And I thought it was quite remarkable in terms of the high quality of the paper. Very thick, glossy. It must have cost a fortune to produce. It looked like it was the result of hiring a very high-priced PR firm. It did convey a lot of information. It almost, to me, though, looked like a political brochure in some ways. It says it wasn't funded with taxpayer dollars, but I honestly don't know how it was paid for. A townwide mailing is extremely expensive. We are planning on doing a newsletter mailing shortly, talking about the various different things the town board's accomplished and is working on, and reminders to the public about certain things, perhaps the need for a rental registry number and what the rules are regarding short-term rentals, et cetera. But I don't know if you had seen it in publication, physical publication as a magazine, or if you saw it online. I do think, that we can always do more in terms of making the public aware of every aspect of the work that the town government is doing with regard to making people aware what the rules are and what the consequences are for breaking them. I think there's an important aspect to that as well.
If I could just respond, I don't know.
I just want to say that in doing so, there's certainly a cost of doing that. So.
Right. I don't know what physical brochure you're talking about. Apparently, I'm not on Ray's mailing list.
Well, it's always fun when somebody comes in and said, this is from the district attorney's office.
What I was responding to, what I see, what I was appreciative of were news releases, press releases, and occasional press conferences and things I see online and in newspapers, mostly newspaper articles when there's a big activity. So those things don't cost money. You already have people in your staff that do a very excellent job of writing press releases. Things that the local newspapers don't have enough staff. They did at various time. They had people, now they don't, to cover the Justice Court. So there's the only thing they really cover in the police blotter that apparently the town police do on a regular basis issue every single information. The blotter is open to the press and they report on everything that gets put in the police blotter, but nothing gets reported from the Justice Court. And that's really where the town enforces its codes. And that's where the serious criminal prosecutions occur as well. So my focus tends to be on the zoning enforcement part of the Justice Court. And I know as a result of complaints that cases are referred there. I have no idea anymore, because I don't have time, what happened to those cases, and no one's publicizing them. And you would have so much of an impact because it's a matter of discouraging education and discouraging people from doing the same things because they might not have known that it was improper.
Your point's well taken. Please go into my office and ask Ann Bell. Tell her that I suggested that she show you that brochure, and then I want to hear what your opinion of it is after seeing it.
Apparently, there was a disclosure that was a politically oriented or a document, so.
Yeah, I'm sure it was the disclosure such as that, but it also says it wasn't paid for with any taxpayer funds. But I wonder if it was paid for out of forfeiture money that perhaps the town used to get for, from the county for enforcement. It'd be interesting to know. Maybe you want to look into that for us and report back.
Okay, and even if you do what I suggest, it'll inure to your benefit politically, and that's not a problem. If you publicize your good work, the town's employees, town department's good work, that's a
We try
plus
to
for
do that
every.
all the time. We put out a press release.
That's a plus for everyone who's a current elected official. So is that political? No, that just means that you're doing your job, and you're proud of publicizing the fact that you have department employees that are doing their job as well.
Please help yourself to that, to a look at that publication. Anyone else? We'll move on now to resolutions.
We have a caller on the line.
Okay, let's go to the caller.
All right, caller 9872, you are on the line.
Hi, my name is John Chimples from Montauk. Please stop me if this is inappropriate for this particular section, but I had a couple of things I wanted to say. I wanted to thank the town board for their efforts to address the affordable housing crisis that we're in right now. I would tend to feel that increasing the size of detached structures from 600 to 900 is not something I would be in favor of, but I'm glad you guys are working to make that, to address this issue on some level. I'm also concerned
John, if I may.
Yeah.
John, if I may, we actually reduced the detached accessory structure back to 600 square feet. That was something we discussed. Increasing it to 900. The current. Okay. Yeah, but the current is actually 600, which is also the maximum size for an accessory structure, detached structure.
Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah, I heard David earlier and I got confused, but thank you for that clarification.
We always correct him, although I think he always corrects us.
I'd also like to thank the board for acknowledging the other side of that problem, in my mind, the other side of that problem, which is overdevelopment in terms of numbers and scale. And I'm really excited that you have commissioned, for lack of a better word, the new committee that will bring Jeremy and Jane and Kate Rogers and together to look at ways to strengthen the code, to promote the the mission statement of the comprehensive plan. So congratulations, or thank you for that. While that's being done, I would ask, and I don't know how much influence the board itself has in any of this, but I would ask that you use whatever influence you have to encourage the planning department and the ZBA and anyone else involved to enforce the existing code as stringently as possible to try and mitigate some of this. I'm concerned that, especially with the ZBA, that there may be an effort to get rid of the backlog of cases they have, so things go into administration that I don't think should. And again, I don't know if the board has any influence at all, but I would encourage you to use whatever influence you have, because it just feels like we're not using the tools we have right now to the fullest. That's it. But thank you again for addressing these two issues, and I hope good things come of them.
Thank you, John. And also, if the public has concerns or objects about an administrative application, that will most times trigger a more formal review process, including public hearing. Thank you for taking the time to call us today. We have resolutions. to offer. Kathy?
Starting with Resolution 2023-626 is the approval of the warrant. Claims total $4,807,829.21. And the utility warrant totals $44,702.53.
Second.
All in favor?
627 is to retain engineering services of LK McLean Associates for construction support services for the YMCA roof replacement. The financial impact is $19,500.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Pass and carry.
628 is to retain engineering services for LK McLean Associates for construction support for the YMCA HVAC replacement. The financial impact is $17,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Pass and carry.
I'd like to offer Resolution 2023-629. This is for a scheduled public hearing for a CPF project plan addition. Property repeatedly owned by Marucha Hines, Suffolk County Tax Act 300-63-4. 63-2-4 is 4.4 acres of land located at 22 Farmhouse Lane. The public hearing will be Thursday, May 18, 2023 at 11 a.m.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Pass and carry.
2023-630 is to schedule a public hearing for the acquisition and amend the 2023 Management and Stewardship Plan. Again, this is for the Hines property located at 22 Farmhouse Lane. Again, this public hearing will be held on May 18, 2023 at 11 a.m.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Pass and carry.
631 Stewart Tia LLC. This is the scheduled public hearing for the project plan addition. Proposed owner is, Stewart Tia, 0.27 acres of land. It's located at 67 Surf Drive, Amagansett. Public hearing will be held on May 18th, 2023 at 11 a.m.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Pass and carry.
632 is a scheduled public hearing for acquisition and amend the management and stewardship plan. The property is owned by Stewart Tia LLC, 67 Surf Drive, Amagansett, tax map 300-176-5-21.1. It's 27.27 acres of land. Located at 67 Surf Drive, Amagansett. Proposed purchase price is $800,000. The public hearing again will be held on May 18, 2023 at 11 a.m.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Pass and carry.
633 is to schedule a public hearing for the real property acquisition and amend the management and stewardship plan for a property that is owned by Andrew Arena, located at 298 Gerard Drive Springs, tax map 300-64.1.7. It's half acre of land, again located at 298 Gerard Drive Springs. Purchase price would be $265,000. And the public hearing again will be held on May 18th, 2023 at 11 a.m.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Pass and carry.
634 Greenie, this is the scheduled public hearing for the acquisition and amendment to 2023 management stewardship plan. Purported owner is Patricia Greenie. This is located at 41 Upland Road, Montauk, tax map 300-48-3-12.2 is 2.5 acres of land, again located at 41 Upland Road. Proposed purchase price is $1.925 million. The public hearing again will be held on May 18th, 2023 at 11 a.m.
All in favor? Aye. Pass and carry.
635 is the Avalon Park Preserve Draft Management Plan. The town board owns a piece of property, 136 Second House Road in Montauk. We had a town board work session on this February 7th of 2023. The public hearing will be held on May 18th, 2023 at 11 a.m.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Pass and carry.
636 is appoint seasonal park attendants in the recreational department effective May 14th, 2023. The list is as below.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Pass and carry.
637 is one of my favorite ones of the year. Is appoint seasonal lifeguards for May of 2023. This is effective May 14th, 2023 through September 16th, 2023 at the positions, names, and salaries listed below.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Pass and carry.
25 days to Memorial Day.
Who's counting?
Yeah, this guy.
Everybody.
638, it's appoint preseason lifeguard James Midson at an hourly rate of $18.25, retroactive to April 21st, 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, pass and carry.
639, it's a status change from part-time to seasonal in the recreational department. This is effective May 14th, 2023 for the individuals and positions listed below.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, pass and carry.
640 is a status change from part-time to seasonal for Christopher Benisi. This is a seasonal harbor master 1 for the 2023 season with no change in the budget account. Change in the salary to $32.50 hourly effective May 14th, 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, pass and carry.
641 is a title change for school crossing guards to seasonal traffic control. Let's see here for the 2023 season. The following employees are hereby appointed to traffic control with no changes of budget accounts. James McGuire is effective May 14, 2023. Joseph Cacho and Paul Gonzalez is effective June 4th, 2023 at the salaries stated below.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Pass carried.
642 is a title change for seasonal recreational aids in the Parks Department for the calendar year 2023 summer season. Park attendants listed below are at hourly rate of $21 per hour effective May 14th, 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Pass carried.
643 is a status change for Marine Patrol officers in 2023. The following employees hereby are changed from status from part-time to seasonal with no change in hourly rates or budget lines effective May 14th, 2023 through September 16th, 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Pass carried.
I'd like to offer resolution 2023-644 is to authorize a payment for the prior year for fuel invoice to GMM DEG for the invoice of number 50487, originally dated September 6, 2022, in the amount of $501.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Pass carried.
645 is a reimbursement for the check to James Terry, who had to use his Visa card at East Hampton Plumbing and Heating on February 10th, 2023, in the amount of $17.14.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Pass and carried.
646 is a budget modification for the Highway Department for the lease of equipment. This was taking from reserve and contingencies in the amount of $6,750 to lease of equipment for $6,750.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Pass and carried.
647 is amend section 240-58, schedule 8, stop intersections of the East Hampton Town Code. Where else we held this public hearing. This is actually going to be putting stop signs at the intersection of South Elmwood Avenue, the east, northeast, west, and / west, southwest directions at South Edison Street.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Pass carried.
648 is a notice of bidders for EH 23-021. This is for the Springs Youth Association IA sanitary improvements bid. The bid is available May 4th, 2023. The bid is due back June 1st, 2023. Please contact our purchasing department at 631-324-4183 between the hours of 9 and 4 p.m. Monday to Friday with other needed information.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Pass carried.
649 is a set bid EH 23-014 for the mobile food concession for Gin Beach for the calendar year 2023 to Livienda Ayala's Hampton Soft Ice Cream. As discussed by Jeannie Perez on Tuesday, the highest qualified bidders for 3 years totaling $3,000.
All in favor?
Aye.
Pass carried.
650 is a set bid EH 23-013. This is for surplus oyster seed for 2023 to John Nicholas, East Hampton Oyster Company. His bid was in the amount of $19 per thousand for 3.1 millimeters, $23 per thousand for 5/16 inch, and $27 per thousand for 5/16 inch was the highest bidder received.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Pass carried.
651 is a set bid EH 23-015 for the annual contract cesspool and grease trap cleaning and tank pumping for 2023 to Clear River Environmental Services Corp.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Pass carried.
652 is award RFP number EH 2023-107. This is the license to utilize agricultural land in Amagansett to Sand and Soil Farm for 7 years at $250 per acre at $1,750.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I apologize. I meant to say 7 acres, not 7 years.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
653 is a set proposal for the John Behan Memorial Park. This is a set of proposals for the Franklin Bronze plaque dated March 1st, 2023 for $1,773.49. And also the town will provide payment to Brick Markers USA per donations received from the Memorial Park for the purchase of the memorial bricks, and all expenditures will be paid out of the John Behan Memorial funding line.
Second, and thank you, David, for taking the lead on this.
My pleasure.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Resolution 2023-654 is the Duke Consortium LLC grant of amended and restated scenic and conservation easement. This is to set a public hearing, and the public hearing is for May 18th at 11 a.m.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Resolution 2023-655 is to accept a road widening easement at 70 Bayview Avenue in Amagansett. Whereas council to the planning board and the town attorney have reviewed and approved these road widening easements. Now therefore it be resolved that the town board approves and accepts these easements and directs the town clerk to return the easements to the grantors for recording in the office of the Suffolk County Clerk. And be it therefore resolved that the grantor is to return a conformed copy of said easement to the town clerk for disbursement prior to issuance of a building permit, which, as we heard earlier, did not happen.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
I'm sorry, resolution 656 is to authorize payment to Cintas Pastview invoices. It has been ascertained by the sanitation department records that past due invoices due to Cintas were never paid, and therefore be it resolved that the town will pay Cintas the outstanding past due invoices in the total amount of $837.45.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
I have resolution 2023-657, which is a change in scheduled hours for Melanie Warren, environmental technician. And this is whereas Melanie Warren, environmental technician in the Natural Resources Department, has requested a reduction in her full-time schedule from 40 hours per week to 30 hours per week. Be resolved that Melanie Warren will be scheduled for a 35-hour work week and maintain her full-time status with no change in hourly rate or budget count, effective retroactive to March 20th, 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
2023-658 is to accept proposal for professional web designer services for the Coastal Assessment Resiliency Plan. And this is to accept the proposal from Heather McLeod. This is where the town board solicited proposals for professional web designer services for the CART plan. And whereas the proposal of Heather McLeod was the proposal received with best met the proposal guidelines, and at the recommendation at the evaluation committee, the proposal of Heather allowed to provide services in accordance with this proposal is hereby accepted. Be it further resolved that the town supervisor is authorized to enter into a direct agreement with Heather McLeod for the provision of her services.
Just question, Kate, was this EH 2022 or EH 2023?
I'm not sure if there.
I only asked because I thought we did that this year, that we went out for RFP this year, not last year.
I'm not sure about that. So do you want to table it until I find out?
Well, here's the thing. If we did EH 2023-107,
So
that was the ag lands.
Was it the same number?
But this is the same number.
Or was it a cut and paste?
2022, 107.
One's 22, one's
123. That's what I'm saying. 23 is from ag lands.
Well, if it's wrong, we'll amend it on Tuesday. So second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
And I have a resolution 2023 659, and this is to authorize payment to reimburse Jeremy Samuelson Planning Department for petty cash. And whereas the town planning department has 3 petty cash receipts dated 2016 and 2017 that were never submitted for reimbursement by the then department head, whereas the town planning department is seeking reimbursement for said purchases, resolved that the town will pay the petty cash receipt in the amount of $50 payable to Jeremy Samuelson from the appropriate budget account.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's carried. Resolution 2023-660 is list appointment, public safety dispatcher Stuart O. Campbell. And Stuart will be receiving an annual salary of $55,735.36, effective May 7th, 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed, carried. 661 is to appoint seasonal traffic control officers at various rates, and that would be effective May 14th through September 16th of 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried. Resolution 662 is to appoint Town Attorney Rob Connolly. Resolved effective May 30th, 2023. Rob Connolly is hereby appointed Town Attorney, Town of East Hampton, for the remainder of the term expiring December 31st, 2023. I just want to take a moment and thank John Jilnicki, who for how many decades? Over 3 decades has worked with the town, often as stints as town attorney. His knowledge, institutional knowledge, and knowledge of the town and legal matters is beyond compare. We thank you so much for your dedication to this town.
Thank you.
And your
Appreciate it.
support of the town board, this one and many before it, over so many years. And we're pleased that you will be sticking around to make sure that it's a smooth transition to our new town attorney, Rob Connolly, who, by the way, has worked with you, with the town stint back in, I think, 2018 through 20. I'm sorry, not 2018, 2012 through 2013, 14, somewhere in that range. It's in the press release. It's sorry, I don't remember
Was
all of his dates, but welcome, Rob, and thank you as well. And I further resolved that
This would be an amendment.
this will be,
Okay.
yeah, this is as amended. We need to add, and be it further resolved that the annual salary for this position is $175,000 for a 40-hour work week to be paid from budget account A 1420-51100, 50%, and from the B fund, B account 1420.511, 50% upon proper submission of time records.
I second, want to also give my thanks to John. He's always a gentleman, always concerned about the community, and has always responded to everything that I've asked. And I appreciate it very much. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
It's been a
Appreciate
pleasure.
that. Thank you.
You're my third. When I came on the zoning board, you're always there for me. We work through things. I think one of the best ways for town board members and residents to get better, more knowledgeable is by asking questions. And you allowed me to ask the questions of a green rookie to one of the persons that has some of the most history of any other legal savant on Long Island. I really enjoy also when you go to other jurisdictions. Oh, I know John. Yeah, and they know that your knowledge is unparalleled and unmatched. And it's nice to have that foundation and bedrock within East Hampton. Very happy to have Rob on. Very happy to have you continue on also then too. But even though this is a change, it's not a change in the way that I view you, and I appreciate your help to me.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that
And
very
I'm
much.
going to add, John, that you've been the navigator for this ship of the town, for guiding us in the directions for every part of our code, and the invaluable advice that you've given us both when I was on the zoning board and sitting here in this seat, and your generosity of your time and your commitment to the town is so greatly appreciated, and I thank you and have great gratitude for all that you've done for us.
Oh, thank you. I enjoyed it. I will continue to enjoy it a little for time being for
in a maybe different capacity, I guess, but it's been very enjoyable working with this board and prior boards, but this board happens to be one of my favorites. No offense to anybody who came before.
We'll take it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I was just
I'm
gonna
gonna
say, John,
isolate that.
there isn't a question that we go to you with that you don't have the history of.
Yeah.
And you're a vault of information and we really appreciate it. And I'm glad you're sticking around.
Thank you.
Yeah, and if I could just add, you happen on top of all that, you happen to be a heck of a nice guy.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
And
Appreciate
a
it.
gentleman, and it's been a pleasure to work with you these many years, and wishing you the best, and for the time that you will continue to spend, we're happy to have you here.
Thank you.
So we have a second as amended. Do we have a second as amended?
Second is amended.
And all in favor? Aye. Passed and carried. Resolution 663 is to approve a lease agreement amendment for Dish Wireless LLC, 411 Wainscott Northwest Road in Wainscott. Put the glasses on to see this fine print. Okay, and this was, what are we amending exactly?
Whereas 85 years.
Okay, so it's on the term is 5 years, 4 additional 5-year terms. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried. Resolution 664 is to authorize payment of Toshiba Financial Services. And that is for $62.77 for outstanding invoice.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried. 665 is to accept additional funds, the Wainscott Commercial Center. And that is in the amount of $10,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. Resolution 2023-666 is revised Reso 2023-260 retained Cooley LLP, Whiteman Austin Hannah LLP, and Regano LLP Airport Litigations 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried. Resolution 667 is to extend the contract RFP EH 2021-102 Professional Engineering Services for Town Projects, LK McLean Associates PC, and Nelson Pope Land Surveying, DBA Nelson and Pope.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried. 668 is budget modification for the police department. That is moving $5,200 from PM shift differential to $3,200 in holiday pay and $2,000 in medical supplies.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed carried. 669 is notice to bidders EH 23-022 t-shirts, sweatshirts, and other uniform items 2023. The bid is available May 4th. 2023, and the bid is due back May 25th.
I think it's EH 2023. It should be for the RFPs. Just a minor thing.
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that.
I see EH 23 bids go by the year, so I think it's EH 2023.
Oh, I see.
-109. I mean.
They abbreviated it.
Yeah.
As amended, 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed carried. 670 is notice of proposal RFP EH 2023 on this one. 109 specialized bus services for Montauk 2023 proposals available for 5/4/23. Proposals due 5/25/23.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed carried. 671 is extension of RFP EH 2019-103. Boarding services for dogs, veterinary care, East Hampton PC. And that is in the amount of $2,000 per month.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed carried. 671 is accept bid EH 23-016. Should be EH 2023.
I might be off, so I'll go with what's written right now.
Printing of envelopes and business cards for 2023, EOC Print LLC and Check-O-Matic.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed carried. 673 amend resolution 2023-592, NYMER deductible payment, Hornbuckle, and this is the amount of $25,000. And this is just to correct budget line number, wrong budget account.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried. Resolution 2023-674, amend resolution 2023-595, pay NYMER deductible Hanson. Again, this is a budget account amendment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried. 675, amend resolution 2023-596, pay NYMER deductible Strauss. Again, correcting budget line.
Second.
Account number. All in favor?
Aye.
Passed carried. 676. This is to amend resolution 2023-538, and this is to resolve that Jessica Russ will be retroactively appointed animal control effective April 26, 2023, and be on unpaid leave through May 7th. And her actual start date will be May 8th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed carried. 677, amend resolution 2023-594, pay NYMER deductible Perkins.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried. 678, amend resolution 2023-593, pay NYMER deductible Balkan.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried. 679 is to revise resolution 2023-260, retain Cooley LLP, Whiteman Osterman, Hannah LLP, and Regano LLC, airport litigations.
Second.
All in favor? Aye, passed carried. Additional resolutions. Okay,
Yes.
you have.
I have a couple, and just before I checked my email, Kathy, and that is the
Yeah,
correct
I got a text
RFP.
from Becky.
Okay, great.
I didn't realize it had been,
Time flies.
yeah.
You're having fun.
So I have it as additional resolution 680 to authorize travel and reimbursement for the National Association of Drug Court Professionals Conference, whereas the National Association of Drug Court Professionals will hold their annual conference, RISE 23, from May 26th to May 29th, 2023 in Houston, Texas. And whereas the information learned in the past has been helpful in cases in the East Hampton Justice Court where drugs and alcohol are either the basis of the charges or the underlying cause for the criminal behavior, be it resolved that Town Justice Stephen Tukulski is hereby authorized to attend the conference and be reimbursed for the expenses for an amount not to exceed $2,500, and the reimbursement will be paid from the proper budget account.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried.
And finally, I have Resolution 2023-681, and this is to appoint members to the Zoning Code Amendments Work Group. And this is whereas a number of new studies and plans have been adopted or amended into the comprehensive plan in recent years, and whereas the town of East Hampton has experienced an increase in the number of year-round residents and an unprecedented amount of development since the COVID-19, God forbid, COVID-19 pandemic, whereas the town board supports an assessment review and recommendations for amendments to Chapter 255 of the zoning code. Resolved that a zoning code amendments work group is formed to assess, review, and make recommendations for amendments to Chapter 255 of the town zoning code. And the following members, which are listed on the resolution, are hereby appointed to the zoning code amendments work group.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried. Any other matters to bring before the board?
I do not.
So I make a motion, there is no exec today, so I make a motion that we
Close.
close. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried. Thank you, Hudson. Be well, stay safe, everyone. Thank you, LTV.